Okay, hi everyone. I want to welcome you to a new video from runhorse.com sports, and we're going to present 10 tips to help you win at craps, and that's casino dice. And I'm already taking into account that you have a basic understanding of the game craps. You've played it before, and we're going to offer you 10 tips to help you win at craps and how to improve your game. So let's get into it. Number one, that's always place a small bet on 12 on the come out. I don't know why it shows up, but if you play the don't pass, you always bar the 12, and that's a push. It seems to always show up on the come out roll when you're coming out, when none of the numbers are on, when the dice are off, the first roll of the dice of the game, and that 12 seems to show up continuously. So if you play the don't pass, it's a must. It's a must to go ahead on the 12. Because if you're betting $25, say, and you hit that 12, you don't win, it's a push, you don't lose, the pass line loses. Now, if you're playing the pass line, I would also encourage you to play the 12. A lot of people like to bet the yo on the come out. That's not a bad play. If I'm betting $25, say, on the pass line, and I want to play the yo, I might throw $5 on a yo, and I might throw $1 on a 12 to cover myself, and if it does come 12, then you're going to break even. You're going to at least get your money back because it pays 30 to 1 odds. So I would go for that 12, that midnight bet on the come out roll, and it seems to always show up on the come out roll. It's amazing how it shows up because the casino likes that 12 on the come out because it bars the don'ts, and they take the pass line, so they win basically both ways. They don't have to pay the don't pass, and they will take the pass line bet. So I see a lot of people get burned on that 12 on the come out. So I would just throw, like I said, $1. You don't have to throw a lot on it. Just throw $1 on the 12. If I'm betting, if I'm betting a very, very small amount, like $5 on the pass line, then it's really not worth it. But if you're paying $10 or more, then I think it's worth it to throw $1 on the 12. If you might want to put $1 on 11 or 12, something like that. Okay, so let's get into tip number 2, and that's place bets. And if you're going to go with the place bet, I would avoid the 4 and the 10 because those are the worst odds. They're the hardest to hit, and they are the worst odds. And a lot of times, even on a hot roll, you don't see too many 4s, you don't see too many 10s. Now, if you're playing the 6 and the 8, those are the best odds. So if you want to play a place bet, I would go ahead place the 6 or the 8. Also, the 5 and 9 are not bad place bets. Make sure that you go ahead with the right amount. You have to be even on the 5 and 9 to get the right odds. Okay, so you have to bet $6 minimum. They have to be $6 amounts on the 6 and 8 because that's how the way they pay. Because it's 7 to 6, and that's the way you're going to get paid. So 6 will get you 7 on the 6 and 8. So make sure those betting amounts are right. You have to go in multiples of 6. So you can go 6, 36, 42, 48. And that's the way you should bet it. If you do go up in bets, let's talk about that as well. If you do go up, because they will always encourage you to go up a unit. Go up a unit. The dealers, they like to say, do you want to go up a unit? And sometimes you'll go up on a unit when you hit the 6 or you hit the 8 or whatever, vice versa, so you can win more. Now, if you do go up, I would recommend going up on the first and the second hit, because it's hard to repeat those numbers, and if they do repeat, it usually repeats a couple times, maybe 2 or 3 times. So I don't like to get too greedy there. If you want to go on a full press, if you want to try to really do well, if you're playing like the 6 and the 8, and you put $6 on the 6 or the 8, and you win, you might want to go a full press. You might want to go ahead and double that bet, and then that's the way to get a streak going, and then I would just leave it, let it ride. And that's the way to do it. So do it on your first roll, and if you're looking to make a score, that's a good way to go. I've seen some people do well on that. If you do go up a unit, I would go up a few times, and then I would leave it, and I would just go ahead and ride those winnings, because it's very, very seldom that you get more repeating those points more than 3, 4, 5 times. I mean, there's always exceptions. You get a hot roll, and you could make a lot of money. But it's very rare that those numbers will repeat more than 3 or 4 times. Okay, let's get into tip number 3, and that's bet the streaks. They will make you money. Gambling is all about streaks, folks. You have to be in on those streaks, and you want to avoid betting against those streaks because they will wipe you out. So whether you're a pass line bettor or you're a don't pass bettor, you could still make money at craps because there's tables you can go to that are hot, they're on fire. It's a rarity, but it happens, and you always get a hot shooter at times. it's much more often that the don't pass is winning. I see it a lot of times where the table is cold. I've walked into more cold tables than hot tables. So if I was betting overall, I would favor the don't pass. But craps is a fun game, and a lot of people like to pay the pass line. And if you do get a hot shooter, you can make a lot of money in a short period of time. And that's the thing about it. So if someone is hot at the table, I would be very wary to bet against them, thinking that, okay, they're going to cool off. It's not the way it works. They keep hitting and they keep hitting. And vice versa, if you have someone that's on a cold streak, a shooter, and you keep waiting for it to turn around, it's unlikely, because that cold shooter just keeps getting cold normally. Or that cold table, I've walked into those tables where they're cold, and I made a lot of money playing the don't pass, because it just passed from person to person. And if a person did start to get hot, then I would pull back on those don't pass bets. I would wait until that shooter went out, and then I would go ahead and start my don't pass again, because every once in a while someone is going to get hot and they're going to hold the dice for a while. And if you keep betting against them and they hit a few points, it's going to hurt you. So that's something to keep in mind. Play those streaks, and those streaks can be profitable on both sides of the dice. Tip number 4. That's color up after a big roll is always smart advice. So coloring up is always a good advice if you have profit. And I see a lot of old time players, they like to play dice, and they're in the casino a lot, and they're looking for that hot shooter. They're looking to make money on that one roll, and that roll usually lasts about maybe a half an hour. And you can make a lot of money in that shorter period of time if you're playing the place bets, you're playing the pass line, and maybe you're taking odds even. And that's a good way to go. But when that roll ends, you might have a person hits 4, 5, 6 points. They hit quite a few numbers inside. When that roll is over, you see a lot of those old-time players, and they color up. They say, color me up. And you'll see a lot of players, sometimes 3, 4, 5. I've seen almost the whole table coloring up, because they know that the next person is not going to probably duplicate that. It's going to be a tough feat. So they're willing to take their profit, and they're willing to move on to another table or another day and enjoy the profits that they have. And so that's always good advice, to color up after a hot roll. There's times that I've been at a table like that. Now, a table can stay hot for a while, but it's very, very difficult to duplicate that hot shooter. If that hot shooter stays at the table, you might want to try another roll with them. You might want to wait till it goes back to them and play a couple more bets and see if they can continue their hot streak. In between, those other players will likely be a little bit colder. So do get a good roll. It is smart to color up. Maybe you want to come back in with a smaller amount and you want to try again. But don't continue to play heavy and think that table is going to be just on fire. It doesn't usually work like that. Tip number 5. If you have bad luck shooting the dice, some people are just bad luck at shooting the dice. They don't have a good roll for some reason. I have to say I'm in that category. I don't usually have luck shooting the dice. It's just not one of my strong suits. You know, I'm more of a poker player. Throwing the dice, I just don't have luck with it. Manipulating the dice, some people are good at it, or they just have the luck. It's not something that's good for me. So I would just say, if you're not a good shooter, save yourself time and money and just go ahead and pass the dice. If you pass the dice, I think in the long run, you're going to save yourself money, because I know that I would. Now, once in a while, I do like to shoot the dice, and I will maybe once in a while try to pick them up, and I'll try to shoot. And if normally I go out quickly, or I throw craps or something like that, I usually do well in the field. Actually, I throw a lot of field numbers. So I throw a lot of garbage numbers. I don't know why, but I've actually made people money on the field. And sometimes I actually do bet the field when I throw, because I tend to throw those crazy numbers. And some people are just field throwers. I don't know why. It just seems like that's what I am. And I've tried different sets. I've tried different things, and I just don't have the touch with the dice. So for me, it's just better to pass the dice to someone else. It just saves time and money, because it costs me normally when I go ahead and bet myself. And if I'm betting on another player, I usually do better. So if you're just a bad shooter, there's nothing wrong with passing the dice to someone else, and hope that they can do better. And if you want to shoot the dice once in a while, take a chance. It is fun to shoot the dice. I do enjoy it. I have had good streaks at times, but by far I've outweighed those good streaks with those bad rolls. So you might want to try a roll. If you don't have luck that day, just go ahead and continue to pass the dice. And that's just probably the best way to go. Okay, tip number 6. That's see a yo, bet a yo. And we've heard that at the casino a lot of times. The dealers say that, see a yo, bet a yo. It sounds a little bit crazy, but it's usually true, folks, and I don't really know why. But when you see that Yo 11, you'll see a lot of repeat Yo 11s. And it's just the way that the dice are. I don't know. Sometimes they just seem to hit that 11, and maybe the way they're set or the way that shooter is setting them and throwing them, he's hitting a lot of Yos. So it's just funny how some shooters seem to throw some more numbers. Maybe it's the way they set the dice. Some people set the dice up a certain way, the way they're throwing it, and maybe they're just catching that table and they're hitting the Yos. I don't know what it is, but if you do see a Yo, bet a Yo. I think it's a good play. I agree with the dealers on that. So when they see a Yo, bet a Yo. I mean, you don't have to bet a lot. It pays 15 to 1, so you could bet a couple dollars on it and you have a chance to win if you want to take a shot with that. Okay, let's move into tip number 7, and that's to play the field if a shooter is hitting those numbers. And I talked about that a little bit in the bad shooters tip. And I am a person, I've seen other people, they just seem to be field throwers. They throw a lot of garbage numbers. They throw that 3, they throw that 12, the 2. But, that's great, because if they throw the 2 and the 12, you're getting paid double, or some of these casinos even pay you triple. I was, casinos I played on in Detroit, they were paying triple on the 12. So if you're playing the field, I would look for those shooters that are hitting the field, and maybe if you want to play it, because the field over time is a losing bet. It's one of the worst bets on the table. It's not the best odds to play, but if you do get a shooter that's shooting those numbers, that's shooting those field numbers, you can make money on that in a short term. So if you do want to play the field, I would ride out those streaks and go ahead and play them. And if you see a shooter that's hitting those field bets, you can make a lot of money in the short term. I've seen players just hitting field after field. Sometimes they'll hit it 7, 8 times in a row, and that's when you want to ride it, get on it. They've thrown it a couple times, throw a bet down on the field. If they hit it, continue to play the field until they don't hit. And that's just the way to go. And maybe if they throw another field number, then get back on it, because I've seen guys throw 2, 12 right back to back, and that's just doubled up every time. So there's some good scores to be made there in a short term. So ride that streak, but don't get greedy. Do not get greedy. When the streak ends, then go ahead and don't play anymore. Don't play the field, because there's can be a long time in between. A lot of 6s, 8s, 7s, 5s, 9s can be thrown, and you got no field, and that can happen for quite a while. Okay, let's talk about tip number 8, and that's if you can make money without playing the odds. You don't have to take odds. So don't feel like you have to take odds. The casino normally will encourage you to take odds on the point, and it's not something you have to do. I've seen days where if you're not taking the odds, you can still make money. So if you're not comfortable with playing the odds, or you want to play a small bet on the odds, that's perfectly fine. There's days where the pass line could be hitting, and it could be hitting on the come out, and it's not necessarily someone is catching points. So they might be throwing a lot of 7s and 11s, and that just might be coming out that day. And sometimes the come out roll is where that money is made on the pass line, and vice versa on the don't pass line. It could be the same. Could be a lot of 2s and 3s craps coming out, and that's where you're making your money on the don't pass line. So don't feel like you have to take odds. There's some days where people are hitting those points and they're just not hitting those points. Now, a lot of people will encourage you in some videos to take max odds, because they say it lowers the house edge, but it really doesn't lower the house edge that much. So you can play the pass line, and if you just want to bet 10 or 20 on the pass line and just enjoy yourself, you can go ahead and do that, and it should be fun, and you can still make money. So you don't always have to take the odds. So that's just something to remember, and that is tip number 8. So let's move into tip number 9, and that's hard way bets. They look fun, but the odds are heavily against them. Okay, so the hard ways, that thing in the middle of the table, it looks like a lot of fun, but remember that the odds are heavily against you. It's one of the worst bets on the table, because normally if the number is thrown like an 8 or a 6, it comes easy. There's a lot more ways to make it easy than to make it hard. If you don't know what hard is, hard way is when both of the dice are the same number and it equals 8 or 10, and that's a hard 8, or a hard 6 is 2 3s. It has to come that way when you go ahead and play it. Now, when you place a hard way bet, it stays on until you throw that number or a 7. So if the point is 6, the point is 8. Some people like to take hard ways. If the point is 6, they like to bet a hard way bet on the 6. And it is fun, I have to say. but the odds are against you. So if you want to throw a few dollars on it just to be excited about it, if it comes hard ways, you can go ahead and be excited about that. If you have a hot shooter, again, sometimes that person is hitting those hard ways, but over time, that's definitely a losing bet. So I would go ahead and try to avoid those hard way bets. You're much better off with a place bet on the 6 or the 8, because a lot of times when that 6 or 8 is hitting, it's hitting easy. And if it hits hard, you still get paid on the place bet. So place bet is a much better bet than a hard way bet. Tip number 10. I like to play the don't pass. If I do play the don't pass, I like to play it without odds. And if you do take odds, you should avoid the 4 and the 10 because they will kill you. I've seen people doing really well playing don't pass, and it's coming a lot of don't passes. In fact, on the come out roll, a lot of 2s, 3s, 12s, craps being thrown. They're winning on the come out roll. The 6 and the 8, they're not hitting the 5 and the 9. But that 4 and 10, if you lay that 4 and 10, you have to lay 2 to win 1, and that's the actual odds at the casino. But that will kill you. That will kill you. I've seen people trying to play that don't pass, and they're actually doing well. And they try to lay that 4 and 10, and they just got murdered. For some reason, people hit that 4 and 10. It pays 2 to 1. So if you're laying, and they'll get really stubborn about it. They'll get hit on the 4. They'll lay the odds. They think they get excited because that's a hard number to hit. They might even lay $100 and to win 50, and boom, that person hits that 4, and they get wiped out there, and that's a couple rolls profit. So just go ahead and leave it on the don't. I like to just leave my don't pass. I'm already a big favorite. I don't have to go ahead and lay odds and stress myself out because I'm already a big favorite, and I know those 4 and 10s get hit, and I've seen those hit multiple times. And the same shooter, I've seen him hit back-to-back 4s and 10s, and that you just get slaughtered if you're a don't pass player. So that's something to keep in mind. You have to be worried about that. Don't feel, even if you're a pass line bettor, don't feel like you have to take odds. There's no reason you have to place odds. You can make money just playing the pass line or the don't pass line. You don't have to take odds on every bet. And I know the casino will encourage you to take odds. They like you to play the max odds. And they will do that normally because it's hard to hit those points. And that's just something that's hard to do. So that's tip number 10. I would definitely avoid that. I would definitely avoid that playing those odds on the don't pass, especially on 4 and 10. If you do want to lay a bet, if you do want to play those odds, I would actually go on the 6 and 8 because when the table's cold, it doesn't really matter. Even though the 6 and 8 are easier to hit, 7 is always a favorite number, and the 5 and 9 is something also you can place odds on if you're playing the don't pass. I hope you enjoyed this video. And this was 10 tips to help you win at craps, and that's dice, and it's one of the most fun, exciting games at the casino. And what's great about it is you can play with or against the dice. You have a lot of options, so it's a really, really great game. It's a really fun game, and it's a very, very exciting game. And I played this in Las Vegas, and it was by far the most exciting game. People get really, really excited. A lot of yelling, screaming going on sometimes. When I did well shooting the dice, people are clapping for you. It was a very great experience and a really fun time. So it's a good game to learn, and it's a very exciting game if you want to play it. And I would encourage you to learn it, and hopefully these tips will help you out. So if you did like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this, and that's runhorse.com sports. And best of luck at the craps table.